أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. It's a pleasure for me to be with you, and this is the second lecture that we are trying to get through the website and trying to get you through the website. This will help us to travel less and to be with you more through internet, inshallah, in the future. Just a few things before starting. The first thing that I wanted to tell you that you can ask your questions, and inshallah I will respond to your question, but please wait for 30 minutes before sending your questions. Like this, my dear brother Obaida, and I want to thank him on your behalf and on my behalf because of what he has been doing. He's the one who built, so to speak, the website and did it for us and is with us here managing all your questions and the technical side of this project of having you on the website. So I want to thank him, and for him it will be easier if he gets your question after half an hour. Like this, we can organize the questions, and at the end I will inshallah at least try to respond to 5 to 10 questions. And anyway, if you send questions and send us your remarks and anything that you want us to know, please do, because what we can do is very much use this, read everything, improve our way of doing things through the website, the lectures and the substance. So send whatever you want to send, and like this we'll be able to improve and to know what you are expecting from such lectures on the website. Today I'm following after I started with this overall view on freedom and liberty and liberations. If you remember that this is the overall topic for this year, every month we will have one lecture, and this lecture today is very much about liberating oneself from the self, and in which way we have to understand this process of dealing with ourselves and understanding what freedom means and what liberation means, and in which way we liberate ourselves from the self, from our being, to try to come close to God. And to start this lecture, what I want to do first is to start with an introduction and 3 main points that I think are important. And if you remember what I said last time when I was trying to discuss this issue at the beginning as the starting of our discussion, our understanding of the self and this liberation from the self has very much to do with our concept of human being. And you remember something that is essential for us. As Muslims and coming from the Islamic tradition, our understanding of human being, our understanding of ourself, our understanding of our creation is very positive, in fact. And this is what we have in the Quran when he said, فِطْرَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي فَطَرَ النَّاسَ عَلَيْهَا. Al-Fitra is understood as this natural yearning towards God, towards transcendence. Some scholars, like Ibn Taymiyyah, for example, was talking about this is Islam, it's the very essence of Islam. In fact, there is something which is a spark in our heart from the very beginning, which is directing us towards the transcendence. This kind of a question looking for its answer, its response. And this is where we got this understanding of al-mithaq al-awwal, which is this first contract between God and humanity, mankind as a whole, when it is said in the Quran, وَإِذْ أَخَذَ رَبُّكَ مِنْ بَنِي آدَمَ مِنْ ظُهُورِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّتَهُمْ وَأَشْهَدَهُمْ عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ, when God took from the loins of Adam its offspring and made them testify, am I not your Lord, the unique God? And they said, yes, we testify. And this is quite interesting for us because this fitra, this natural yearning, this state that we have, this spark that we have. Al-Iman, in fact, is a confirmation of this natural attraction towards God, this quest for an answer. Al-Iman is the answer. So this is why we have Nurun ala Nur, is light upon light. It's our faith, which is our answer to the question. And this is where we get peace. And this peace here, it's the very essence of what Islam is all about. There is a connection in Islam between freedom and peace. When you are at peace with yourself, when your question, your intimate question, your natural aspiration, yearning towards God is getting its answer, this is where you are at peace. And when you are at peace, this is where you are experiencing this freedom. This understanding of the concept of human being in Islam has to do with something which is essential and that we have to say and define as Muslim as very positive, based on innocence, which is our natural state. And then from innocence, we go to responsibility. And our responsibility is when we understand ourselves, when we come back to this special status, natural status. A French philosopher was saying that, in fact, there is a kind of a leap of faith, that to get this faith, you go beyond rationality. In fact, if you come to the Islamic tradition, it's not exactly that. What we have is that to come back to faith, to come back to the very essence of our connection to God, is not to go beyond or to have a leap of faith. It's to come within. It's to come in our heart. It's to find again the natural state. And this is why we have in the Quran that إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. The people who are lost except those who come to God with a sound heart. And the sound heart is the heart that is the same as it was at the beginning. And what is a non-sound heart? A heart which is not in this state. It's a covered, it's a sealed heart, which is, once again, something which is very important. Why? The veiled heart, the very understanding of kufr, is veiling, it's covering, it's something which is preventing the natural state, which is connected to God, to experience this, because things are veiled and the heart is veiled. Al-qalb al-marid. It's this is something that we find in the Quran, in Surah, in many verses in the Quran. But في قلوبهم مرض. In their heart there is a sickness, there is a disease, there is something which is not the sound heart, which is preventing them from experiencing this. Having said that, it's important for us to understand this, because if we don't understand that, we don't get the very understanding of what is the liberation process we are talking about. How do we experience this liberation? How do we get this freedom at the beginning? And this is where we need to understand that. So here there is something which is important and that we need to get. The second point, in fact, one point which is connected to this, also it's important, is in fact that in our way of coming to this original kind of spark that is in our heart, al-fitra, that we have. That, for example, someone like Mircea Eliade, who was studying religion, was saying he traveled around the world and he saw all the tribes, all the people, whatever was the legacy, monotheistic or no religion at all, or very traditional spiritualities. He said there is something in the structure of the conscience that is connected. It's in the structure of their conscience that there is something which is connected to religion, to a sense of the quest for the transcendent, or at least the quest for meaning. And as Muslims, we can completely agree with this, because this is what we get in the Quran, as I was referring to. And this is also something which is our understanding of how do we come close to humanity. It's by nurturing what is in ourselves, this natural attractions towards divinity. And how is al-shaytanu shagal, Iblis, in the Quran, the figure of the devil, is in fact by overemphasizing everything which is so human in us. So it's not coming from outside, it's coming from within. When, for example, something which is natural in us is nurtured to such an excess that at the end it's turning us towards something which is less humanity and more evil in us. So this is where we need to understand this within this tension, that the way we have to deal with this is how do we nurture, educate this human dimensions to come close to the divine sphere, to the divine reality. The second point that I wanted to make here in our concept of human being is as children, we are innocent, as I said. But when our awareness, our conscience is there, there is two things that are important. It's first the acknowledgement that we are free and that we have to choose. The second thing is that we have to control, we have to master. And this is something which has to do with our concept of humanity. Innocence, freedom, responsibility, and mastery. Controlling and knowing how do we deal with ourselves. So as Islam is putting it for us, as our teaching are clear on this, it's how do we construct this relationship and how do we perceive ourselves as human beings, being innocent at the beginning and getting a kind of an awareness, a consciousness. And then with this consciousness, we have to deal with our freedom and master ourselves. And this process is the way we are getting this freedom, and with this freedom being able to get this kind of liberation from the self, which is what we are talking about. So this understanding, it's very positive at the beginning, because there is something which is a spark, which is an attraction towards God, and God is calling us through this, because He created us like this, and He is calling us to say, come to the answer to the question that I put in your heart from the very beginning. You have it in your heart, and you have the question, and now I'm the answer. And this is where you are going to get peace, and this is where you are going to get freedom. And to get this, you need to understand that with your consciousness, you need to deal with your freedom. You need to control yourself and try to respond to what is expected from this journey of life, which is, once again, something which is so essential for us as Muslims. And then there is a last point in this introduction, which I think it's very important for us to focus on in this discussion, which once again, while we are experiencing all that, we need to understand that nothing is definitive, and that we are trying and we are starting again. We are trying our best to get to the point where we are getting the answer, where we are mastering ourselves, but it's always to be started again. It's always a process, and this is why we have the very essential notion in Islam that we are trying to go through this process: innocence, freedom, responsibility, mastering ourselves, and then we have to start again. And what is the name? Is it dhikr? Dhikr is how do we remember God? How do we remember Him? And the Quran, inna nahnu nazzalna dhikr. We revealed a dhikr. A dhikr is the second name of the Quran. And when we pray, it's why? Because we remember. When we fast, we remember. When we go to Jum'ah, is to remember. Everything is about remembering. When dua is remembering. So it's every time we are trying to remember. Why? Because by nature, by essence, we are creatures that are forgetful. That this forgetfulness, it's part of our way of dealing with ourselves, with our mind. We are al-insan. That's one of its features, is to be someone who is full of nisyan, which is forgetfulness. So knowing this, it's an ongoing process. We have to start again. We have to be equipped. We have to understand that we are reaching a point and then we have to start again. And as it is said, and as we know that, الإيمان يزيد وينقص. Our faith, it's sometimes increasing and regressing. And then it's a struggle. It's always, and يصدقه العمل. It's action that is going to confirm this. So we need to understand that we need to go towards something which liberation, the essence, the nurture, the perception that we need to have when it comes to liberation is something which has to do with humility. Humility, because we are never there, definitely. We are not reaching it once and for all. We need to understand that our life will be a struggle, that sometimes we will be close, that sometimes we will be far, and what we are today we might be better tomorrow, and sometimes we are going to be worse tomorrow. It's going to be worse for us. So this kind of understanding that remembrance, dhikr, it's the way we have to struggle. It's with humility that we are reaching a sense of freedom and the reality of liberation. Now, these are 3 points as for the introduction to the topic. The concept of life, with the way we understand this fitra, the way we understand the first contract that we have, الميثاق الأول, with God, and we say Bala Shahidna, that we say yes, we testify there is only one God, and then there is a spark in our heart, and we have this yearning, we are trying to accomplish, to achieve this. This is something which is understanding, and then what we understand is that with this consciousness we are free, and with this freedom we are responsible, and with this responsibility we understand that we have to control, to master ourselves. What is human in us under control makes us come close to the divine. While if we are so close to the human that we are not mastering the human in us, this is where the devil, this is where the bad side of ourself is pushing us towards what is worse than humanity. And then the last point is we have to understand that it's never achieved, and life is an ongoing struggle to try to get there, to try to improve ourselves, to be always more free, or to get more liberty, and to experience more liberations, as something that we were talking about. Having said that, now, if we come to the first part of this talk, and the second step is, okay, let us think about what are these prisons and jails that we are facing in our life. How can we define and understand the jails and the prisons, and what is in fact preventing us from being free in our life? There is something which is the first dimension, and we all know. It's so much the case that coming from the Islamic tradition, coming from the Sirah, the Prophet ﷺ, coming from the traditional books and all what is said, how do we call this society and the society of the people before Islam? Before Islam came to them, we call it al-Jahiliyyah. Al-Jahiliyyah is a state of ignorance. And ignorance is in fact the first jail, the first prison. And then this is why Al-Quran came, and as we know, the first verses that were revealed, Surah 96, is بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق. Read in the name of your Creator, of your Lord who created. Read. So we are repeating this as something that we know, that what is essential in Islam is that knowledge is essential, al-ilm. And this is also what is the dignity, as I said last time, the dignity of Adam alayhi salam and human beings is وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, that Allah, God, taught all the names to Adam. And then he taught him all the names, he gave him all the names just for him to be equipped with this knowledge. So the first thing which is important here for us as Muslim, which is also something which is important here, is the perception here that ignorance is the first jail. Ignorance, of course, the first one is the ignorance of God, It's the ignorance that there is one God. And this is why when he was calling the Prophet ﷺ and everything in the Quran, he called him by saying, I am your Lord. There is no other Lord. There is no other God. So, La ilaha illallah. There is no God, no deity but God. That this essential teaching was to change everything in the relationship with the world. That look around you. All these elements, they are not gods. The wind is not God. Nature is not God. The earth is not God. All these are signs that there is one God. So the knowledge. To understand that don't take the means for the end. The end and the ultimate end, the ultimate one is God. La ilaha illallah, la sharika lah. There is no way of associating anything to him. So this understanding that all these, even the idols that the people were, these are signs. They are not gods. They are just means to the ultimate end. So this knowledge of God is changing even the knowledge of yourself. And you have to come back to yourself and understand that God is asking you to be better, is asking you to know what is right, to know what is wrong, that you be just with your own self. And if you don't do this, you understand, Allahumma zalamna anfusana, that we have been unjust with our own self. So this perception, the knowledge of the self, which is once again that you can find this in all the philosophies, started with the Greek philosophy, Latin philosophy, Asian philosophy, Confucianism, Buddhism, Hinduism, all the traditions, all are coming to the same point. Know yourself. Why? Because the opposite of knowledge is ignorance, and ignorance is a prison, is a jail, and knowledge is a way towards freedom. It's not freedom, it's a way towards. It depends how you deal with your own freedom, your own knowledge. Because knowledge could be, if you are arrogant, a second jail. So if you are arrogant with your knowledge, you have two jails. Your knowledge is becoming a jail within your own ego. So the first here is ignorance, and as it is said that we have, it's the knowledge of God, the knowledge of yourself, and of course the knowledge of the world. And this is why siru fil ard wanzuru. So go, travel, look at the world. There are signs that there is one God, but there are also knowledge that the sunan al-kawniyya, that all these laws, all this natural law, this natural reality, all this, it's knowledge. And if you're going to get some freedom in this environment, know who you are, know where you are, know for whom you are. All these dimensions are the points that we need to make as a first step when it comes to the reality of the first prison that we are facing. The second one, it's one that we know, and it's connected to what I was saying. It's our own ego. We know this in the Quran, the figure, the character that we have, the representation that we have in the Quran, personalized in the devil in Iblis, is Ana khayrun minhu. I am better than him. I am better than him. That I. It's not to acknowledge the fact that there is one God, not to acknowledge the fact that there is one God, but still, I am better. This I, that I know, that I am, that this I is becoming so powerful that I'm jailed in this I. I'm jailed in this self, that everything, it's taking so much room that I end up being arrogant. Arrogant is the opposite of being a believer. A believer is humble in front or before God, and knowing that I know, but Allahu A'lam, God knows best. That arrogance is I know, I am, I will have power, I'm taking over, I'm independent, I have no dependence. And someone who think that I have no dependencies, I'm completely independent, is someone who is in fact jailed in his or her ego. So we have to free ourselves from the ego, and this is the second prison. And ignorance is very often putting you in this ego, because coming back to your ego is very much the one who thinks that he or she knows everything. It's ignorant and full of his or her ego. It's two together. So this is where you have to struggle and to come back to this kind of recognition that I know, but I don't know everything. I know that I know nothing. This is what Plato, Socrates was saying, and this is something which is very, very Islamic. It's a Greek Islamic proverb, and we need to know that. We need to know that we have to deal with this struggle with our own ego as a dimension which is important. Now, there is a third, which is connected to the ego, which is when we talk about emotions. And we have to be very cautious with emotion, because very often we are negative. Now, emotions are good if we control them. And they are natural. In fact, very often we think that when we are naturally reacting to what is happening around us, emotionally we are free. In fact, we know now, and the neurosciences have studied this by saying, there are stimulus that are coming to our brain, and in fact we are reacting, the way our neurons and our amygdala and our brain is reacting, the synapses and the way all this is reacting is just reacting to stimulus that are coming from outside to our mind, and there is a kind of a reaction. So this is determined, it's not coming from nowhere. And what could determine our brain? It's not only the fact that our brain is functioning like this. The environment, the context. We know that the brain is working on itself, but it's also connected to the surrounding world. If you, for example, listen to music or you listen to the Quran and you have a baby in your you have a baby and expecting a baby, so this is where this could have an impact onto your baby. The surrounding, the context, the interaction with the context has an impact on the way the emotions are going to be nurtured and even shaped. So emotions are important, and we have to celebrate emotions. For the emotion of beauty, for example, Allahu Jamil yuhibbul jamal, God is beautiful, He likes beauty. And this is something which is an emotion. Now, we have to master our emotion. And in contemporary psychology, we have lots of books, even speaking about emotional intelligence. It's how do you master your emotions, not to be the object or not to be submissive to your emotion, but to master, to be the subject of your emotion, that you can control yourself. And by controlling, you get some freedom, that you are not under control. You know that psychologists now are working with Hollywood movie makers, with people who are in the advertisements business. Why? To control the way we are going to react to some ads and to some movies. We know that this is the way to control us through our emotions. So we have to master, we have to control, and not by denying emotions, but knowing the beauty, knowing the importance, knowing the nature of emotions in order to keep them under control. And one of the ways also is to prevent our emotions to become passions. And passions are sometimes blind emotions. Is when what we like is taking so much room in our mind, in our heart, that we are completely blind. The way we are supporting a football team, the way we are supporting basketball team, the way we are supporting idols in the music business, in the movie business, it's just blind. It's a passion. And then we are not controlling, and we are jailed into our passion. And this is the way, for example, people were asked to understand the Prophet he's not talking out of passion. This is spirituality. It's a revelation. It's not his passion. So to be passionate, it's dangerous if we are not controlling our emotions. And even with our religion, sometimes, and this is a question that I was asked about in the other lecture, sometimes people are passionate about their religion. No, we have to be wise. We have to be balance in the way even we deal with. And how come are you going to be passionate with religion and not understanding that you have to be full of wisdom? Why? Because even the Prophet ﷺ is telling you, help your brother. Unsur akhak, zaliman aw mazluma. Help your brother when he's right and when he's wrong. And the companion asked, how could I help my brother when he's wrong? Prevent him from doing wrong. So this is how to. So you need to have a critical mind. You need to know how to deal with this. So you cannot be passionate about this. You have to be reasonable. You have to be spiritual. You have to be wise. And wisdom is the opposite of this way. So passions are, overemphasized emotions, blind emotions, and this is a way of being jailed within our ego, and then also with a type of ignorance that is part of something that we have to go beyond as Muslims, as believers, and this is what we find in all the tradition. All this together is known as what? Is known as a word that it's everywhere in the Quran, and that we have to be very, very cautious in our life and very, very aware that it could come from everywhere, which is a shirk. A shirk is to associate somebody or something to our way of believing in God. So a shirk al-akbar is when we think that there is another God beside God, and this is not forgivable. And this is what we have in the Quran. God forgives everything except that. Then that's not going to be accepted. So we have to free ourselves from anything which is al-kufr or shirk al-akbar, which is to think that there are many gods. There is only one. La ilaha illallah. There is no deity except God. This is something which is essential here. But now, having said that, we also understand that with our emotions, sometimes we are so moved and we are so much following our emotion, our passions, that we are in fact associating to God something else. It could be our way of dealing with money. It's the way we are dealing with fame. It's the way we are dealing with our own instincts. It's the way we are dealing with many, many things in our society. And this is where this is a shirk al-khafi. And the Prophet is so dangerous, more dangerous than the Mahdi, announcing the day of judgment. Why? It's like an insect in a very dark night. And this is so subtle that you cannot see it. It's in yourself. It's when your intention is not pure, and you have to struggle. No one can now claim my intention is pure. I don't know. I'm purely for God. No, of course not. Sometimes it's for our reputation, even ulama, even scholar. You don't know. Sometimes there are things that you are doing. Are you sure that you are doing this for God only? Are you sure that your intention is sincere? It's not for fame. It's not for money. It's not for power. It's not to please somebody. Is it really deep? That you are freeing yourself from your own ego, from your own passions, from your own emotions, from your own ignorance, and that you are just doing it sincerely for God? That's a deep question, and this is one of the jails that we have, the prisons that we know. So if we come to this, the first one, as I said, is ignorance, with all its dimensions: ignorance of the God, ignorance of the self, ignorance of the world. The second one is with this understanding that our ego is becoming our reference, and then there is in the ego a kind of shirk that I'm doing this. It's me. And it could end up being arrogance, as I said. And the third one, of course, in our process is emotions and passions. And the last one is all these together could be summarized into what is understood as a shirk in many dimensions. And all these dimensions are what is preventing us from this liberation that we understand, what we acknowledge, that there is only one God and then we will come to Him. So this is the first part. And if we want to liberate ourselves from ourselves, if we want to experience this, it's very important to come to this understanding of the prisons that we are facing, where we are, and how we are going to liberate ourselves from this dimension. Now, how are we going to deal with that? How are you going to be able to go beyond this prisons and to try to find the way towards peace, meaning the way towards freedom, meaning the way of our own liberation? So, knowing these dimensions, the first one, of course, will be, as we spoke about ignorance, will be knowledge. And knowledge here, it's important, and we know this, that everything that we keep on repeating, that in Islam knowledge is so important, is the condition of freedom. Because knowledge is power, and power is a way of being free with our own self and towards the world. So this knowledge, it's multidimensional. It's not only the knowledge of Al-Quran or Sunnah, that's very important. And when the Prophet ﷺ was called this knowledge, that look, there is one God. And this God is telling you, look at the stars in the horizons. All this is based on knowledge. You need to get this knowledge and you have to come back and to know what is expected from you. And the knowledge is know yourself. Know that in yourself there are very positive dimensions, but very dark sides. And this knowledge is how you get this knowledge, but not only to know who you are, but what you have to do with what you know. That's essential. That ignorance is not to know and that's it. Or it's not, the opposite of ignorance is not I know and that's it. No, the opposite of ignorance is to know and to know what to do with what I know. So, and this is coming from our revelation. This is coming from the way we deal with ethics, with morality, with what is right and what is wrong. And this is where knowledge of the self is so important, is to come back. And you come back to what? The knowledge of the self. You come back to this spark that you have within, this original contract that you have with God. And knowing this contract that you have with God, then you have to decide. And you have to go to something which is knowing yourself, knowing the good dimension, knowing the noble dimensions of the self and the less noble dimensions of the self. So this understanding is based on to something which is this knowledge, and knowing every time that you are trying to know, but you are not going to know everything. And this is what Shafi'i was saying when he was talking about his own opinion, when he was talking about fiqh and an opinion on the Islamic law and jurisprudence, when he was saying, my opinion is right and the opinion of my opponent or the other could be right, and I might be wrong, and the opposite is true as well. So this is a kind of humility in the way I deal with my ignorance. Why? Because I know, but Allahu A'lam. God knows best. He is more knowledgeable. He is the ultimate knowledge and the ultimate truth. So this kind of humility is based on something else, which is this trust, trusting Him and trying my best as to my knowledge, trusting Him as to my ignorance. So this trust that we have in God is something which is the very start of our liberation process, because it's based on knowledge to get some power, knowing that He is the most powerful, that I trust Him in my knowledge, and I'm trying to get as much knowledge as I can in order to free myself from myself, the knowledge of myself, the knowledge of the world, to know in the situation where I am. Because I live now, for example, in the 21st century or the 15th century, and I need to know the environment, because this environment could be a jail. Ibn Taymiyyah was saying this. He was saying, they are putting me in jail. My freedom is in my garden, and my garden is in my heart. So you think that you are putting me in jail, you are putting me in my free space, which is my heart. And it might be that I'm free outside, but this freedom outside is a big jail. It's the great jail. I remember once I was in Canada and I just went to visit some inmates in one prison, and I was with the chaplain there. And we went out and he told me, he smiled at me and said, you know what, we just are going from the small prison to the big one. Yes, this could be a big, 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 big jail. It could be the big prison if you don't get an understanding that in which way your knowledge is going to free yourself from all this world and what is attractive in this world. So you need to know the world. You need to know how the world is playing on you and how are you going to resist the world and change the world for the better. Not only you can't accept the world to take over, to alienate you from yourself, but you need to change the world. So how are you going to do that if you don't get the knowledge of the world and of yourself? You need the two knowledges, and this is the way to liberate yourself. And liberating yourself, it's essential here. The second way of dealing with this is going to be also something which is important in the way you are going to deal with your own self. So knowledge is important, and then there is something in Islam which is important, which has to do with being fair with your own self. And all this is going to be based on the way you are mastering yourself, controlling what is bad in yourself and promoting, nurturing what is bad, which has to do in the world in Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, commanding what is right and resisting what is bad. But with your own self, you have to do exactly the same. God has created us in a way where there are bad things and good things, and we need to know this. And then we have to control. امسك عليك لسانك. The Prophet ﷺ was saying, لا تغضب. Don't get angry, and then check your own self. This way of mastering yourself, it has to do with something which is exactly the opposite than being driven by your emotions. You have to master. You have to get to know yourself, and then with this understanding in which way you are going to try to master yourself and understand that how you're going to do that. It's once again, this is an exercise that you need to experience in your life. Of course, there are things that are helping you. Why are you praying? Why are you fasting? Why are all these rituals? Because they are helping you to be disciplined. Discipline. إن الصلاة كانت على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. You have to pray on time. Why? Discipline. Master yourself. Master your time. Master the Quran, the way you read the Quran, the way you are close to the Prophet, the way you read the Sirah, the way you are. Be careful. Choose what is your example and model. لقد كان لكم في رسول الله أسوة حسنة. There is in the Prophet, in the Messenger, the best model. What does it mean? Be careful. Don't fool yourself, because these people around you and this world could be, you could be attracted and driven by your emotions by following what the people are doing, or you can choose this model. And how are you going to do this? By discipline. Through discipline and disciplining yourself and trying to find the right principles to follow and the right models to follow and the best example for you. So this is where we need to go through this kind of mastering yourself, controlling yourself, which is important. It's very demanding, and it means also that you implement what is expected. But remember, in Hadith al-Awliya, when the Hadith al-Qudsi, the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, "Man aada li waliyan adantuhu bil harb," the one who is going to combat or to attack one of my friends, and Awliya Allah, it's a war that I am launching against him. What does it mean? How are we defining Awliya Allah? They are coming close to God by implementing al-fara'id, and then وَلَا يَزَالُ يَتَقَرَّبُ, it comes close and closer to me بِالنَّوَافِلِ, with what are the surrogatory and the added practices, so adding to what is the basic known rituals. Why? To come close. It's based on what? Discipline, mastering, controlling. This is the way all the psychological schools now and contemporary psychology, as I was saying, are repeating this. Emotional intelligence, mastering, knowing who you are, knowing how you react. You know the world, you know yourself, and you try to master. This is the second way. So first is knowledge, and second, connected to this, is also mastering yourself and trying to be at that level. The third, in fact, instruments are means, are necessary way of dealing with, to come with something that we have in the Quran, and the way we translate this is wrong. In the way we translate this sabr as patience. No, it's patience, but it's also endurance and perseverance. As I said, it's all based on dhikr, that we have to come and start again and again and again. And we know this is we know that we are trying, and sometimes we feel that we are reaching a point where we are good, but we know that everything could be lost tomorrow. رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا. God, don't deplete our heart after you made us follow the right path. So we know that everything is very fragile. So perseverance here is sabr, is that you rely on this kind of understanding that you will have to start and start again. You are never there. And in all the tradition, Qadariyya, for example, in the Sufi tradition, Ibn Ata al-Iskandari, al-Jilani, but also what we have in Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, what we find in Ibn Taymiyyah, all the schools are always saying, be careful. You try, you reach, and sometimes you regress, and you have to start again. And part of your liberation process is never to think that it's done, because when you think it's done, this is a jail again. You are falling into it again. So no, always in the process that you understand that dhikr should be there, that you have to repeat the process, that you need to be involved in this struggle with humility, but with trust. Trust God that as long as you are in the process, He's calling you. If you think you get there, it's not the point. It's not going to be close. But if you come close to Him, He will come close to you. If you come to Him walking, He comes to you running, as it is said in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So it's always to be start again, to be started again, to be reassess with humility. There is one last thing which is important. In the process of this liberation and liberating ourselves, and this is not known and not very much talked about outside the spiritual traditions and the religions. And this has to do with a very important concept, which is forgiveness. That in fact, our trust in Allah, as I said, that ignorance, we try our best as to our knowledge, and we trust God as to our ignorance. When we speak about, for example, mastering, we are trying our best and we trust Him. There is something which has to do with tawakkul on Allah. And we know that Allah is not asking us more than what we can bear. That لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. We know this. But there is something here which is important, is when يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا. Oh, who you believe, just come back to God. Ask for forgiveness with a sincere heart, with sincerity. This sincerity is essential. Why? Because at Tawbah, when we come back to God and we repent, there are conditions. The first one is to come with sincerity to God again. Second is to be sincere in the fact that we don't want to do it again. What we did, what was wrong, we don't want to do it. We are sincere in the fact that we will not. And the third condition is that when we are asking Him with sincerity, we should be convinced that He is going to forgive us. There is a kind of trust, deep trust in God, that in fact if we come back to Him, He will forgive us. And it's one of the conditions of forgiveness is to trust His forgiveness. The condition of being forgiven is to trust that He will forgive us. So this is very powerful. This is very powerful because, as it is said in the Quran, if all the community, all the people around you wanted something bad for you, and He doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. And if you are going to judge me, and He forgives me, His forgiveness is more than your judgment. I'm not going to be the subject or the object of your judgment. Because you can judge me on one fact. You can judge me on one situation, and He sees my intention. This is so central here that it's powerful because it's helping you to liberate yourself from the judgments of the people. And this is part of liberation because, as Jean-Paul Sartre was saying once, he was saying, hell is the others. Yes, that could be very true. If you're not with God, people can change your life into hell by judging you, by saying this is who you are. They don't know who you want to be. You are trying. They see the results. They don't see the intention. They see the wrong. They don't see what could have been better. They see what happened. They don't see what could happen in the future. He can. They can't. So this is something which is very important in our liberation process. Forgiveness is a liberating process, is a liberating reality. It's for us in the way we are with God. It's also with us, for us in the way we are with human beings. And it's the way we are with God. It's powerful and it helps us to understand that nothing is impossible. Nothing. If I have done, some of the people are listening to me in jail. Some of the people are listening to me now in a situation where they know what they are doing now and what they did yesterday was so bad. Nothing is impossible. قل يا عبادي الذين أسرفوا على أنفسهم لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله. The people who are acting badly against themselves and they are doing things that are bad, don't despair from God's forgiveness. Because God forgives everything. As long as you don't have another God, as long as you are sincere, and you are very much sincere that you are trying this forgiveness, it's important, but you have to be sincere. You remember this sheikh once who had two people coming to him, and he has his student, and one of the students, and one of the guy who came to him said, I did such, am I going to be forgiven? And he said, yes, you are going to be forgiven. And the other one said exactly the same, saying, no, you're not going to be forgiven. So the student said, how come you said the first one that he's going to be forgiven and the second no? He said, the first one told me I did such and such and such and such. And I told him, you're going to be forgiven because your sincerity to come to ask could help you to have this all forgiven. The second one was telling me, I'm going to do. So someone who is going to tell me, I'm going to do, is not sincere in his forgiveness or his quest for forgiveness. He's not sincere because he wants to do the bad and then hope that he's going to be forgiven. So this is not to be sincere. This is to be playing with God. And we can't play with God and we can't play with our own sincerity. So this is where, as Muslims, we have to understand the whole picture here in the way forgiveness and the tawbah, التوبة النصوحة, التوبة الحقيقية, it's the true, the sincere, the real way of asking forgiveness and coming back to God. It's so important. And this is also part of Rahman, Rahmatullah. It's the way He is a Rahman, full of compassion, coming back to us, always coming back to us if we come to Him. And this has to do with Him. It has to do also with our brothers and sisters, that as long as we deal with them with this sense of being forgiven as to our own freedom and forgiving people for their freedom and our own freedom, because to forgive is also to be free from this kind of dependency towards you owe me this, you did this to me, you. No. The hadith al-Bayhaqi, which is a weak hadith, is not really a hadith fine for you, brother. That we find in al-Bayhaqi is not, in fact, in Shu'ab al-Iman. It's not a hadith, but it gives us the meaning that you have to look for excuses for your brothers and sisters. It's not only for his freedom, but it's also for yours, because as long as you are waiting for him to do something for you, or you have in your heart something which is not nice towards your brother or towards your sister, there is a sense of dependency. You are not free, but freedom is to go beyond that. Sometimes it's difficult to forgive. Sometimes it's difficult to forget, but sometimes you can forgive and not always forget up to a certain point. But this is the way, this is the struggle, this is mastering, this is discipline, this is requirement, this is demanding, this is life, in fact, in the way we are to liberate ourselves from the self, from this over emphasis and over pressure and this power that our ego can have on us. So all this together, if we come to knowledge, so important to free ourselves from the second is controlling and mastering our ego and our emotions and our passions also, as I said. The third one is to be perseverant, is the way we deal with this, is to go beyond the shirk. And the third one is in all dimensions, by the way, the shirk. And the fourth one is this dimension, understanding of compassion, rahmah, forgiveness, al-afu. It's tawbah, when we come back to God, and in which way all this is freeing and helping us to free ourselves. So we spoke about the prisons, we spoke about the instruments, and there is something where it's important here to get a right understanding as Muslims of all these. To end this discussion and to try to get to something which is the deep understanding of that, it's at the end of the day, the liberation has to do with a very deep relation to oneself. And this is something that has to be between God and me, not you. And sometimes we have to keep this secret between you and me. There are things that we have to deal with. Allah knows and I know, and I'm trying my best. Don't let the people judge and know everything about you. It's not to be secret, it's to be protected. Now you need brothers and sisters helping you not to judge the wrongdoing of today, but the potential good doing for tomorrow, today and tomorrow. So the people who are helping you to be better, these people are the people who are going to be with you. They are going to help you on the way towards this demanding and a journey of liberating yourself. So try to find the right companions. Try to not to find the judges, but try to find the brothers and sisters. Try to find people who are helping you to be better and not judging you because they think you are bad. So this also is very important, and you know this. Man satara mu'minan fi dunya, satarahu Allah fi dunya wal akhirah. That anyone who is going to protect his brother or sister in this world, God is going to protect him or her in this world and in the hereafter. As sitr, it was satar, God is protecting. This is something which is so essential in our way of dealing with our understanding of our religion. So there are things that are very personal, very intimate, that we need to deal, and we know that God knows, and people are not going to, even they are not going to understand. It's also to be protected from the judgment of the people, because their judgments sometimes are very much putting us into the jail of their tribunals, which once again is wrong. The second point, as a conclusion, is that we need brothers and sisters during this journey, and we need to find them, and we need to be protected because they are helping us. So there is freedom in brotherhood and sisterhood, because there is a way we can get this peace, to can be understanding and try to understand where I'm heading, not only from where I'm coming. Don't judge my past, but try to improve my present and my future. Be the one who is helping me to be free, not the one who is under the authority and the power of your own judgment, because you are giving yourself power that it's not for you to have. This is the only power of God. And this is also something that we need to understand as Muslims, which is so important, and everything which was based on the Prophet ﷺ teaching, and that we find in everywhere, in the mystical tradition, but also in the traditional teaching. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is that we have to be patient, perseverant, and endurant, which is something which is so important. And to understand that all this is going to be achieved as well, not only through this. How are we going to experience this? Because in Iman, as I said, yazid wa yanqus, so it's increase and decrease. There is something which is essential, is وَيُصَدِّقُ الْعَمَلِ, that we have to be in order to liberate ourselves from ourselves, we have to be generous, we have to give, we have to serve. And this is something which is where you are. If you are a contribution, if you are a gift, it helps you to free yourself from the self. Be a gift. And this is the way to your own liberation. It's a way to your own freedom. A gift for the other, it's freedom for yourself. That's something which is so essential in our society. Wherever you are, you can be in Africa, in the United States of America, you can be in Europe, you can be in Muslim majority countries. Are you a gift? You are on the way towards your freedom. If you are a liability, or if you are not giving, you are just starting, or you might still be in a kind of a jail of your own ignorance, in your own arrogance, and of your own self-sufficiency. And this is something that you have to face as a Muslim, as a believer. Be a gift wherever you are, and this is the path towards freedom and liberation. Thank you so much. We have the question now. I will try to respond to as many questions as I can, and hopefully we'll have all these questions answered. I once again want to thank my brother Obeida, who has done so much for us in this. So how can we Muslims claim that we are in a state of freedom when Islam itself implement law, rules and regulation in every aspect of our life? So this is a good question, because this is where we need to understand. First, absolute freedom doesn't exist. We always need rules and limitations. In fact, to experience freedom, we need limits to our freedom, because this is where we understand what we can do. And we have natural freedom. In fact, the fact that we need to eat, we need to drink, these are natural limits. And I spoke about this in the book, The Quest for Meaning, when there is one chapter on freedom and talking about all the spiritualities and religions and the way we are dealing with freedom. So there are regulations and there are rules. Now, as Muslims, what we understand is that don't pretend that you are free when you follow, your emotion. In fact, even if there are no rules, you will end up following something. You are going to follow the majority. You are going to follow the way the people are. So, in fact, the rules that we have as Muslims, in the name of the only one God, are helping us to free ourselves from all the secondary dependencies to come to the acknowledgement that we are trying to get or to enter in God's peace by responding to His call and understanding that He is helping us to free ourselves from all the other gods, all the other deities that are in fact a shirk that we don't want. So it's very important to understand here that the fact that we pray 5 times a day is in fact apparently it's something which is done under the very strict regulation, but these strict regulations are helping us to free ourselves from alienation in the world, from following money, fame, consumerism. This should be the case, by the way. This should be sometimes for Muslims. It's not. We are praying, but we live like exactly the others. But the liberating process is an added consciousness in everything, an ethical way of looking at things. This is the knowledge. So we are respecting rules to free ourselves from a world where there are apparently no rules, but in fact we are driven by instincts and passions and shirk. So this is the way you understand that as Muslims. Be disciplined to get freedom, because if you think that you have freedom without discipline, you are in jail. So the second question here, let me just take that here. How to distinguish the jail of the emotion in front of the jail of the reason when taking decisions? Good question as well. I'm impressed, by the way, by the questions I got in the French lecture as well as in the English one here. How do we distinguish between the... So once again, emotions are realities that we are experiencing. This is part of our nature, and our brain, our body, our heart, we are dealing with emotions. So when, for example, emotions are so powerful that we don't have we can't experience a critical distance, assess the emotion, master our emotion. This is where emotions become passions, and we are losing control. So our reason, we always need to have a kind of balance. Is, for example, when we are driven by emotion in the way we are supporting, for I don't know, a football team, or listening or watching anything which is in arts and all this. Always to get this balance is to be reasonable, is to get كذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا. When you are the community of the middle path, you don't deny emotions, you don't deny sexuality, you don't deny entertainment. All this is needed. You need this. ساعة وساعة يا حنظلة. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said to Hanzala. But the question is, your reason should help you to get the right path, the balance, which is al-hikmah, which is wisdom. So once again, this is where when you feel that you are driven by emotion, something wrong in the whole process. But now you are mastering, and you are celebrating, and you are using your emotions, using your knowledge, and you to serve, to give, and to celebrate God's presence. This or to be a gift for humanity. This is where you are using this in a way which is once again the right path and the right way. Is it possible to be free if there is destiny? What do you think about interpretation of Muhammad Iqbal concerning taqdir and qadar? That's a good question, and Muhammad Iqbal dealt with this in a philosophical way as well as a spiritual way. But once again, there is a very simple answer to this, and I think that we have to be very cautious not to enter into very deep, complex discussion. Allah knows everything, so in His realm, in His reality, in the reality of God, everything is known, and there is no past, no present, no future. As for us, there is a limitation in our way of understanding. So we are free because we are ignorant of what He knows. So we need to deal with what we know. And what we know is, I can decide to do good, and I can decide to do bad. And I'm responsible of what I know. What He knows is the knowledge of God. But what I know is my responsibility as a human being. So to keep on asking the question, how come He knows and I don't know? Let us look at the reality. You take responsibility, and you have to deal with your freedom, because you know that you have a freedom, you know that you are experiencing the freedom, and this is where you have to deal with it. So your ignorance is protecting your freedom, and your freedom is a requirement for you to deal with responsibility with your own being. This is a way to deal with very complex metaphysical discussion. Muhammad Iqbal spoke about that, and many others. But I think that we can come with a very simple way of, don't ask about what you don't know. What you know is that you have a consciousness, that you have freedom, and you have reason to decide to what you have to do. Decide what is right and resist what is wrong. This is where you are free, and you are experiencing something which is your dignity as a human being. Are you saying that Iblis is not a real spiritual being, but a metaphysical construct used to talk about evil? No, I didn't say that. I said no. I said I was talking about in the Quran by saying what represents Iblis in many dimensions. It is a being from an Islamic tradition. It is a being now. It was understood in many ways by scholars. It's a reality, and as I said, it's essential for us to acknowledge the fact that there is this dimension in us, there is this being in the world, and that we have to deal with it and with this reality, with our conscience, with our consciousness, with our heart, with our mind, and with the way we deal with this. And one of the most powerful tricks of Iblis of the devil is to let us think that he doesn't exist, as the poet Baudelaire was saying in the past. And I think that this is where we need to acknowledge the fact. So it's not what I said. I don't know if this was understood that way because my talk was not clear or too quick. Sorry for that. So is it okay to be judgmental? If yes, how do we judge ourselves? If not, how do we define liberation inside us? And how can we change the world without the feeling that I'm better than you and I know this better than you? So we have to be very cautious with being judgmental. We have to be demanding with ourselves, and we have to try to be better. Now, judgmental, we have to be very cautious with this. First, as I was talking about compassion, in the Buddhist tradition, they always say you start compassion with your own self, and that's true also with Islam. Tawbah, understanding the Tawbah is notice that if you come back to God with sincerity, you are going to be forgiven. And what he is saying in the Quran, لا تقنطوا من رحمة الله, never despair, never lose hope as to God's forgiveness. So there is something which is, yes, be aware, be sincere, be transparent, face the reality of who you are, but not in a definitive way. Know that everything is possible. Everything, if you kill, or you have killed, or you have done things that are just not even imaginable from a human perspective, you always can find this forgiveness if you come back with sincerity. And the way you have to deal with the people around you is also to avoid always say, I know better than you. What does it mean? And remember what the Prophet ﷺ was saying. If you know, look at people who know more than you and just be humble. And if you are experiencing suffering, look at the people who are suffering more than you and you are going to be humble as well. And you have to be patient and perseverant. So it's always a question of perspective. Be careful. Don't put yourself in a situation where you are always comparing yourself and judging yourself. Of course, sometimes to judge is good. It helps. If your judgments are helping me to be better, that's fine. It depends how you express this, how you deal with this, and how you expose this to me. Sometimes you have just to say things in secret, in a kind of an intimate way. Don't expose your brothers and sisters, because if God did not expose them, who are you to do this? And who are you to think that you are better than others? So be demanding with your own self and full of forgiveness and compassion towards the others is the starting point of everything. And for yourself now, when you are dealing with people, try to avoid being the object of their judgments. This community is a very difficult community. This community is very difficult. The community of the Muslims, it's very often the community of judges. So this is the community that we have to serve. But we have also to be very, very cautious. Very, very cautious and very, very protective. Remember the last verses of the Quran in Surah An-Nas. قل أعوذ من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس. So I'm asking to the Lord of all these people, I need to be protected. So I'm serving people. I'm not going to be the object of their judgments. I'm going to free myself in the way I'm dealing with this. So the last question maybe, would it be better to do a good deed without really knowing how sincere we are as compared doing the... I think that would it be better to do a good deed without really knowing how sincere we are? It's, to try to know how sincere we are. It's always good to do a good deed, and then our intentions here, we should assess our intention, of course. And are we doing good deeds only to please people and to please the people the way we... some are living in the West now in non-Muslim majority countries, and they are completely colonized and disintegrated in the way they deal with their principles. They want to please the people. This is not freedom. This is alienation. They are free to do as they are doing, and then they are completely alienated as to their principles. So we need to check our intentions. To do good deeds is good, but as Muslims, before God and our soul, in our heart, we need to try to assess our intention always. It's always good, it's always better, because it's a freeing process as well. Now, last question, sorry. Purifying our soul and going back to Fitra is the way to liberate ourselves and reconstruct ourselves with the knowledge and submission to God's order. Is there a way you can clear the best steps to reconstruct ourselves based on knowledge? So the two last questions are about this. I think that, as I said, it's important when it comes to this, to come to the steps that I mentioned, the knowledge of the self, and then respecting the principles of Islam and our the way we deal with the rituals. This is important. And then to be involved in something which is a structured way of dealing with our own knowledge, in which we are gaining knowledge. Am I trying to have more knowledge and to get more knowledge tomorrow than today? This is something which is essential. And no one can say, oh, you know what, I'm not an intellectual, I'm not a professor. No. You are a human being. Knowledge is a requirement. No discussion. So this is why you have to get books, articles, whatever, the knowledge of yourself. These are steps that you have to take. Now, the second thing which is important is the way you deal with your own emotion, is the way you are trying to ask yourself, the way you are with music, the way you are with football, the way you are with soccer, the way you are with sports, the way you are with all this. Are you mastering? Are you controlling? Or are you just driven by all this? Are you a blind human being with passions, or are you an open-minded and a believer with an open heart and a clear consciousness of what is essential for life? So this is something that you need also to deal with, and then with this, you try now to look at yourself, and you know yourself. You should know yourself. What are your weaknesses, and be confident. Trust God as to the ignorance that is in yourself, and try to change. And it comes with action. All the people are telling you, oh, you know, spiritual life, just be a mystics and the Sufi tradition. No, the Sufi tradition is not about preventing yourself from acting on the world. That's not right. The real mystical tradition is to be deep with your heart and active with your body, active with your mind, changing the world and giving. Be a gift, as I said, in the world. And this is the way it helps you to be better. But when I say be a gift, I'm not saying be a gift outside home. Be a gift with your wife, with your husband, with your kids, with your parents, with your brothers and sisters, with the oppressed people around the world, with the poor, with the eldest people. Be a gift. Be the one who has a conscience, who is conscious and full of awareness, full of taqwa as to what is a priority in life, inshallah. May Allah help you, and I'm sorry that I was not able to answer all the questions, and inshallah we'll meet with you next month. Please, if there is anything that you think we can improve as to the lecture, as to the topic, as to the way it's done, let us know. I'm trying to read everything, inshallah, and my dear brother Ubaida and my assistants. So please be involved with us. The best is to communicate, to let us know, inshallah. And remember always, don't forget to tell the people you love that you love them. Life is fragile, and we always have to remember that one of the deepest liberation that we are experiencing with life is to remember that one day we are leaving. That's also about freedom. May Allah help you, love you, and protect you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.